Guys, Darcy here from L.O.S Standing Strategy. On the woods today for a stroll, looking at what wet it is. You can just imagine trying to make a fire in this if you didn't know how. So we're going to do a video on making some sapwood fires. Here on the BC wet coast, it has been raining like the fall lately. So everything's pretty wet. If you don't know what to do, it's going to be pretty frustrating trying to get a fire, especially in a survival situation. Okay, stay tuned. So what we're looking for today is going to be an old stump. Something preferably that hasn't been cut or burned at any point. That way it's giving the tree a chance for all of the sap and everything like that to fall down from the top, make its way down to the bottom, and then kind of settle in the stump or the roots. And so what you'll start to see is these kinds of spikes show up. Check this out. Almost like a horn. Now what's happened here is over time the resin that came down from the tree settled, right? Everything else kind of wore away, whereas these spikes here, as you can see on the stump, have stayed even when the rest of it has gotten, you know, pretty crumbly and just turned into compost basically. Whereas these guys are really hard still. The reason for that is because of all the resin content that's in here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to harvest some of these, we're going to process them, and then we're going to make a fire with them. Okay, so my favorite way of doing this is get a fold up saw, get a good chunk of the horn, saw it down, so I can break some off, sniff test it, make sure we got lots of resin in there. From here, take my knife, process this down. I'm going to pull all this old, not rotten, but kind of used up wood. You know, all the stuff that's been eaten up by bugs and time. Get down to this really sappy stuff. Stuff we call sapwood, some people call it fatwood. Basically the same thing. And what you'll find is that there's veins of it running all the way through here, and sometimes those veins break up. I don't know if you guys can see it here. There's a little bit in there that's not what we want, so we're going to split that down the middle here, crank that open. That's going to give us a better chance to get into the really good stuff that we want. So check that out. Okay, so we're going to take away all this stuff here that we call punky wood. And I mean, this stuff does have use, but that's another video. So for this one, we're just going to pull all that stuff off, get it down to the stuff that's kind of like amber, that has a really strong pine smell to it. Yeah, you can see there's some punky wood in there, kind of mixed in. So I'm going to clear that out just because it doesn't burn. Alright, so you can see what I'm going for here. So I want these layers that are almost like an amber in between the wood. Okay, and so you want something like this that has a really good mix. It's not just pure amber and resin. The reason for that is we're going to have a little wood and a little resin at the same time. It's going to work together to create this type of fuzz that we want, that we can catch a spark with. Okay, if it has too much resin in it, it's not going to burn right. And if it's too much wood, obviously, it's not going to burn right. So we got to find balance in there. So I'm going to take a board or something I can put a little bit of pressure on, and then I'm going to take this sapwood that we were just working with here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape my knife backwards against it. Okay, I want to find that spot in the wood that's got a lot of resin. And you see kind of fuzz I'm creating here. Okay, there's a lot of space, a lot of volume in there. I want to keep that volume because when I hit this with a spark, I want it to go in there and I want it to burn real good. Now, if I crush this, right, because it's going to fall on the ground at some point, when I go to pick it up, if I crush it, I'm going to lose all that volume. So I want to pinch it, kind of put it off to the side here, keep it off the ground, nice and dry. Especially in this wet weather, everything's absorbing so much of what's in the air, so much of it's going to come up off the ground. We can keep it as dry as possible, all the better for our fire situation. Imagine you just fell out of the water, or your friend just fell out of the water, and it's winter and everything's wet. You want to do everything you can to make sure that your fire building material is as dry as possible. I often will take this stuff and put it in my shirt in a pocket that I know it's not going to get crushed or something. So now I've got my fuzz. I'm going to make a couple bigger chips. Just need a few of these guys. They don't need to be too big or too many. It's just a few of these bigger chips that'll help to get my bigger chips going. So now I'm going to take these, I'll put these over here to dry. Take my little bit of fuzz right here. Get my ferrocenium rod. I'm going to strike against my ferrocenium rod into the fuzz. So to speak, I'm going to throw a spark directly into the fuzz. Now I'm putting downward pressure. I'm not trying to spark it like this into it. Can do that, it does work. But from here, it's going to be a lot easier. Let's go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So this stuff starts to burn right away. Get my chips in there. Chips start to burn. Then I can get my bigger pieces. And the sap content that's in this wood really will keep it going under all kinds of weather conditions. Made this kind of a fire in the snow before, on top of the snow. You might see that in some of my older videos. It's pretty amazing tech. And from here, we just get bigger sticks, bigger pieces of wood, put them together, right? Make yourself fire. If you're here on the BC wet coast, I'd highly suggest at this point getting yourself some dried up boughs of hemlock. Hemlock contains a ton of resin, and it will go really good with this kind of fire. So hopefully that helps in creating a nice warm fire here on the BC wet coast. As you can see, this stuff will just burn and keep burning. Remember, research, practice, play, have fun. Take care.